The German Shepherd didn't bark. He didn't growl, didn't lunge. He simply took the blow, the sharp kick from the leather boot of a passing biker, and stumbled back with a low whimper. The biker laughed, cruel and loud, as he sped down the road, leaving behind a cloud of dust and a stunned little boy clutching the leash with trembling hands. The boy's eyes filled with tears, not from fear, but from something deeper, something older. That dog was more than just a pet. And that biker had no idea what line he had just crossed, or who he'd just messed with. If you believe in kindness, second chances, or the deep, unwavering loyalty of animals, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs to hear this story, and subscribe to Positive Tales. Your support helps us keep telling stories that matter. The town of Winslow Ridge was small, tucked into the shoulders of a valley, where everyone knew everyone, and strangers rarely passed through unnoticed. 11-year-old Danny Keller lived on the edge of that town, in a modest house that bore the weight of loss. His mother, a nurse, worked night shifts at the local hospital. His father had passed away 2 years ago, a Marine K-9 handler who never returned from his final deployment. That German Shepherd, the one who didn't flinch in the face of a biker's cruelty, was Max. Max had once been his father's service dog, his partner, his lifeline in war. After the funeral, Max had been retired and sent home. But Max hadn't adjusted like a typical dog. He stayed by the front door, his ears flicking at the slightest sound, his eyes scanning the horizon. Always waiting. Always alert. Always protecting. Danny didn't have many friends. Kids his age found him quiet, sometimes distant. But Max understood him in ways no one else could. Every morning, they walked together. Max knew the path by heart. He would slow his steps to match Danny's small legs, nudge his hand when he felt the boy's mood shift, and sit patiently while Danny read books aloud at the park bench his father used to take him to. It was more than routine, it was therapy, it was healing. It was survival. That morning, they were returning from one of those peaceful walks when the incident happened. The biker had roared down the sidewalk, swerving too close to the curb, aiming a laugh and a cruel joke at Danny before swinging his boot out at Max. It wasn't meant to be serious. At least, not to the biker. But to Danny, it was the world collapsing again. He dropped to his knees beside Max, checking his paws, his side, cradling the dog's head. Max didn't growl. He didn't bare his teeth. He just looked at Danny, eyes full of loyalty, trust, and pain. Later that day, Danny told his mother. She was furious, but she was also tired of late shifts, of being both mother and father, of the fragile line she had to walk to keep them afloat. She hugged Danny tightly, thanked Max, and whispered that everything would be okay. But Danny saw the worry in her eyes. He felt the helplessness again. And something in him shifted. What the biker didn't know, what he couldn't have known, was that the incident had been caught on a neighbor's doorbell camera. The video, uploaded to a local Facebook group, quickly spread. People were outraged. Some recognized the biker as part of a rowdy motorcycle club known to pass through town. But others, especially those who knew the Keller family, saw more than just a cruel act. They saw a child reliving trauma. They saw a hero in canine form knocked to the ground. By the end of the week, a local news outlet picked up the story. That's when things started to change. A retired police officer, Sergeant Lucas Mendez, saw the footage on TV. His eyes narrowed as he recognized the subtle body language of the German Shepherd. That wasn't just any dog. That was a trained K-9. He contacted the news station, then the family, and offered to meet them. When he did, he brought something unexpected and offer. Lucas now worked with a regional K-9 rehabilitation program. When he met Danny and Max, he didn't just see a grieving family, he saw potential. Max, though technically retired, still had the discipline, the training, and the heart of a working dog. And Danny, in his quiet strength, reminded Lucas of too many young people he'd seen fall through the cracks because no one believed in them. He offered Danny the chance to train with Max, not as a handler, not officially, but as a way to reconnect with his father's legacy and build something of his own. The training sessions were slow at first. Max already knew the commands. It was Danny who had to learn to trust his voice, to carry authority, to believe that he was strong enough. They trained after school, in the early mornings, and sometimes late at night under the stars, with Lucas guiding them like a patient mentor. And bit by bit, Danny grew. He stood taller. Spoke clearer. Max responded to his voice with precision and pride. And most importantly, the two of them started walking with purpose again. But life wasn't finished with them yet. One evening, while returning from a training session, Danny and Max came across a group of bikers gathered near the outskirts of town. Engines idle like low growls. Laughter echoed across the road. And among them, unmistakable in his leather vest and smug grin, was the same man who had kicked Max. Danny froze. Max didn't. He stood tall, alert, his body between the boy and the men. The biker noticed them and smirked. "You again," he sneered. "Still dragging that mud around?" But this time, he wasn't laughing alone. One of the other bikers, an older man with sharp eyes, turned to look more closely. He stepped forward, narrowing his eyes at Max. "That's a service dog," he muttered. "That's a soldier's dog." The mood shifted. Turns out, the older biker was a veteran himself. He'd seen dogs like Max save lives. He'd lost friends who never came home, friends who served with canines just like him. When he heard what the younger biker had done, his face darkened. There was a quiet scuffle. Words exchanged. And then, suddenly, the biker who kicked Max wasn't laughing anymore. He was being escorted out of the group. Not just shamed, but expelled. The biker gang might have been rough, but they had their own code. And hurting a service animal, hurting a kid? That crossed a line even they wouldn't ignore. Word spread. Not just about the kick, but about Danny and Max, about how they were training, how they were healing together. The town rallied behind them. Danny was invited to speak at a Veterans Day ceremony. He stood at the podium, his hands shaking, his voice barely above a whisper at first. But Max stood beside him, calm and proud. And when Danny spoke about his father, about Max, about learning to be brave again, there wasn't a dry eye in the audience. Months passed. Danny and Max became symbols, not of pity, but of resilience. They were invited to schools, to therapy centers, even to law enforcement events where retired K9s were honored. Lucas helped Danny design a community program for kids who had experienced trauma, using animals as bridges to healing. And Max? He stood at every event, not as a retired warrior, but as a living legacy. The boy who once knelt beside a kicked dog, silent and small, was now a young leader with a mission. And the dog who never barked back that day had become a teacher to many, reminding everyone that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it stands quietly. It endures. It heals. If this story touched your heart, if you felt the strength of Danny's journey, the loyalty of Max, or the importance of second chances, please, like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Positive Tales. Your support keeps these stories alive and helps us spread compassion, one tale at a time. Let us know in the comments, have you ever experienced the power of an animal to heal, protect, or change your life? We'd love to hear your story.